There we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining. I am Irina. I'm part of the global pricing and licensing team. I'm here with Viorela. She's the product owner of Orchestrator. Basically, I will cover the commercial side, and she will cover more of the technical side. Now, as a small disclaimer before we start, we won't go into the actual pricing, as in prices numbers. The idea is to guide you a little bit through our commercial offerings, what has changed, how does the licensing model work, and then we are open to questions and whatever might come. So, okay, sorry, I'm not really good with this PowerPoint. Now, on the agenda today, we will go a little bit through the platform overview. We will talk about Flex licensing, which is our latest and greatest release, let's say. We have introduced AI units, common consumption metric, automation cloud robots, which are the fully cloud-hosted robots, another thing. We will treat the community offerings and again, the questions. Now, today, we have three deployment types. One is automation cloud. Cloud, it's the UiPath, the native UiPath platform. We host it in Azure, it's managed by us. Now, then we have the individual products under a Windows installer. Now, these are what we call today the legacy SKUs on-prem. Some capabilities are not available, the one highlighted with gray, but they're on their own. And then we have the automation suite, which is again available for on-premise, but the difference is that this is a one package Linux install. And again, we have a few products which are not available for the moment, but for sure on the roadmap. Now, packaging this, we have introduced latest concept. It's called universal pricing and the Flex SKUs. Let me just make this one. The idea is simple. We, in the effort of reducing the numbers and offering more flexibility, basically with a single set of SKUs, you can choose whatever deployment you want. Either it's automation cloud, automation suite, or Windows MSI. The good part about it, one of the good parts about it, is that you don't have to make up your mind at the beginning. You can just buy the Flex SKUs and decide upon later. Another thing is that we also provide the means like some transition licenses in case, let's say, you want to gradually transit from one deployment type to another, or you change your mind at some point during the license term. So this is fully flexible and it's custom to everybody's needs. Now, one important change is that with the Flex plan, we removed the concurrent and multi-user licenses. So the only licensing model that we have for the moment is named user for the Flex plan. And we have removed the concept of the Orchestrator standalone SKU. So all Flex SKUs come with an embedded orchestration. This means that basically, once you buy these SKUs, you can get unlimited Orchestrator instances, as many as you need. And moreover, in the same offer, you will also have up to 3 non-production licenses. So let's say if you have one production orchestrator that comes with these SKUs, you are allowed to have up to 3 non-production orchestrator, process mining, and insights. Sorry, not really. Okay, now, in terms of general offerings, we basically offer the Flex plan in 3 motions, let's say. We sell a la carte, packs, and full platform. Now, the packs, we have a few packs. They cover all ranges and they are tailored to the client's journey. They're built mainly for the early stages of the automation And it basically allows all the resources for a customer who's just beginning to get started and to scale up. Now, the other approach is a la carte purchasing. This is as before. You basically add the products, product by product, SKU by SKU, depending on the configuration, on the needs, and what is needed in the situation. And after that, we have the full platform capabilities. We're talking here about HAPOs and ELAs, but we're talking here about enterprise customers, big automation, big flexibilities, and clients who already are kind of far away in their RPA journey. Now, I want to go a little bit through the actual plans. Now, our platform is divided between users, robot, and platform add-on. We have a few tiers, a few SKUs. I wouldn't go into too many details here. Everything is available, like all license configuration is available on licensing.uipath.com. If you have any questions or if you would like me to go into more details about these SKUs, please ask and we can discuss more. What I would like to mention here is that we have introduced the Cloud Robot Units bundle, what we call the robot units, but Theo will talk about them a little bit later. Now, in terms of capabilities, this slide kind of illustrates whatever they have. So the way we're building our SKUs, we have one SKU that gives you some entitlements. And here you can see for Action Center, we have these entitlements for attended citizen developers, so on and so forth. We thought about them in a way in which they kind of gradually scale depending on the user's capabilities. We just add more and more and more capability to each user SKU. And here I will let Vio take over.
Okay, so here we've introduced AI units as a new pricing model, let's say consumption model for all our AI products, meaning for now, let's say document understanding, AI center, task mining, everything that needs ML models, for example, for training, for computer vision in the future, and so on. So we will have a single SKU for all of them that will you will see also in community in the following months. So up until the 22.10 release. Can you move? Okay. And now what's new, let's say, especially in cloud, automation cloud robots. There are two types of automation cloud robots, what we call serverless and cloud robots VM. Serverless are cross-platform, are running cross-platform processes. So for example, in Studio, you will start a new project, create a new project that will have a type cross-platform without UI, and this is important because this is a Linux-based robot and it doesn't use session. So for moving files, for example, you could use this one. And the Cloud Robots VM, which I think it's more easily to understand because it's basically our current unattended robot, but hosted by us, by UiPath, on these Windows machines. And the advantage here will be that, for example, there is no need for installing your robot, for no need of infrastructure, no need to ask IT department, let's say, to set up a virtual machine or anything like that. So based on, since we introduced these new cloud robots, we also, like Irina said before, we also introduced a licensing model for them, which is cloud robots. Irina, can you please move to the other slide?
Yes.
Okay. So robot units. Automation Cloud Robots, both serverless and Cloud Robots VM, will consume these robot units. And the offerings are like we put them here. In community, you receive 300 robot units per month. You should see those in your community organizations in cloud by now. And at the first day of each calendar month, these will be renewed. Their use or lose, let's say, and the same for trial, but we give them 12K. And for enterprise plans, we would sell these in robot units bundles in a very similar way, let's say, like we used to sell document understanding pages before. So for cloud robots, for serverless, the consumption will happen by the minute. So because these serverless processes will not use UI automation and will be faster. So our documentation states for depending on the size of the machine, how many robot units will be consumed per minute. And for Cloud Robots VM, in the moment you would set in Orchestrator a machine template that is of type Cloud Robot VM, and you turn on a virtual machine on that template, we would consume, depending on the size of the machine, for example, a standard, a medium-sized machine would consume 6,000 robot units the moment you started, but in that month you could perform, let's say, unlimited executions with this consumption. And like it's mentioned here as well, robot units are per tenant. So you allocate from the pool of robot units in your organization, you would allocate robot units on each orchestrator tenant, and you would consume from that tenant pool everything that you do with the machines. So this is with Cloud Robots, and here is a summary for the community offering that we have today. So as I mentioned, automation Cloud Robots, 300 robot units per month, 2 attended, 1 unattended, Studio, and includes Studio X apps Action Center, which is displayed as automation developer SKU, 1 orchestrator tenant, computer vision limited to 30 megapixels per minute. I know last time some people asked what is this megapixel per minute. Is basically how many images you can process. The number of images, let's say, it depends on how big they are per minute. And document understanding pages, currently we have a limited offering with 2 pages per document, but in the following months we will release AI unit support, and you will see, instead of document understanding pages, AI units, so you can make use of other models, not only DU ones. And I think this concludes our presentations. I could see that you are asking some questions in chat. I'm gonna try to take them one by one. Okay, documentation on serverless versus VM robots. Yes, I'm gonna give you the links here in chat, the links to our public docs. And there you will also see the different, let's say, charges or consumptions for different VM sizes, how to set it up, and so on. And as I said, at least serverless, you could try it in community, and you could try it as well with Studio Web. So if you create a Studio Web process and then you publish it to Orchestrator, to your personal workspace, for example, and then you will run it, it will consume some of these robot units, as it's considered a serverless process. Is robot unit every time you run the robot? So I'm assuming, if Mauricio, that this means the question refers to if it's consumed every time you run the robot. For serverless, it's consumed, yes, every time you run the robot, but it will consume robot units based on the minutes. So for example, if your automation, the one without UI, so the backend automations, the cross-platform ones, as we call them within the product, will run for 5 minutes. For a medium machine, let's say it will consume 5 robot units, but for VMs, we have right now what we call these reserved units, where it consumes from the beginning, and then you have as many runs as possible on that machine. What kind of data retention is involved with both cloud robots? Data intentionally store files retained in the VM image. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that, Brian. So it's the question, so everybody will hear it, is about data retention with data, let's say, generated by the cloud robots hosted in UiPath's VM.
I know this question, and we will
go
come
ahead.
back. Yeah, I know that the question will come back with the qualified and accurate answer.
Cloud robots. I know the team when they implemented cloud robots, they looked and they had security sessions and all that, but I honestly don't know the answer right now. What is serverless? Is it not same as cloud? So we call it serverless because you don't need a session. And these could be run. We also have, for example, for Chrome, you could do some browser automation with serverless, but it would not need, like the unattended robot, for example, for the robot to use some credentials and to actually log in on that Windows session, let's say, and then do the automation and then do the execution of the automation. So this is why they are called serverless, as they are cross-platform and for now only available for backend, the backend type of automation. Make it, and Mauricio says that serverless robots make it easy to run background automation. Yeah, without needing to worry about the infrastructure. So basically what cloud robots do is to remove the need for you to install the robot on machines and to have an on-demand robot available, right? Without having to buy an unattended, for example, but serverless is a different type, let's say, of unattended robot. How orchestrator licensing will work in this case? Will it not require a license anymore? So if you're talking about for cloud robots are only available in Automation Cloud, hence it will the machines will be defined in Cloud Orchestrator, and this means that once you allocate robot units on an orchestrator tenant, the consumption will happen from that tenant pool. So orchestrator is aware that the maximum you could consume is, I don't know, 100 robot units, because that's what you allocated initially, but it won't require a license per se, like you used to license an orchestrator tenant in MSI, for example. Okay. If we're running a non-production and a production orchestrator, then which one should have the automation developer license attached to it? How can we use Studio in non-production and the bundled robot in production using the same automation developer license? So this automation developer license or citizen developer, these licenses give you access to multiple products or services. For example, to Studio X, Studio Apps, Action Center, and so on, right? So when you purchase this license, think about it like an Office license that is per user. For example, you purchase an Office 365 license that gives you access to Excel, PowerPoint, and so on, right? But you cannot have, for example, an Excel license for Viorera, for me, and a PowerPoint license for Irina within the same SKU or within the same user license. But for the on-prem, for this case, for example, you purchased an automation developer license, Anush. and you want to have maybe 2 tenants or 2 orchestrator instances, right? Where one is production, one is non-production, or one is test, one is development. We have a functionality, especially for these user licenses that include Studio or Studio X. And previously we also had that Studio Pro, so also test functionalities are included in Studio. So it is called external license in some versions or standalone license in the newer versions. I can give you, let me take a note so I can search for the link in the documentation, and you could have the same human user. So you would assign to me this automation developer license, and I will be able, not in the same time though, but to connect to the non-production orchestrator and I don't know, publish some stuff there, and then disconnect from that one and easily connect to the production orchestrator or tenant. For example,
here for cloud, if it's cloud, this functionality still exists, but for the moment, you need to reach out to us and tell us that you need it. This is a common case when it comes to partners who have, let's say, one automation developer license and they want to connect to multiple cloud customers, let's say. It's something we can definitely manage, but as opposed to on-prem, this feature is not visible in the orchestrator. So you have to reach out to us and tell us, for example, if you're a partner and I have 5 customers and I need this feature for them, just tell us what your clients are and we will fix it for you. Yeah.
Thanks, Siri. How does licensing work with parallel processing in serverless? So you can do parallel processing and it will consume robot units basically. So robot units is the common denominator here. Even if you have one serverless execution for multiple ones in the same time and they will run for 1-2 minutes, so they will be some faster ones, you would see the consumption of robot units for that particular tenant. For example, if you are running the serverless process, right? So cross-platform process on a serverless VM, and let's say you have very little robot units left, we would finish for you we would wait for you to finish the execution, and if it consumes a bit, we have a bit of a grace period. It consumes a bit over, we would mark it as over consumption, but you could finish your processing there. So there won't be issues in this area as well. I hope that answered your question, Jim.
Yeah, just one more thing to add on top of what you said. So basically, the way we are selling ACR and serverless, it's via a common consumption metric, which are these robot units. Now, if, for example, you reserve a fully standard VM for a whole year, that's it. You consume the units. This is the equivalent of a fully unattended license, unattended robot license, cloud or on-prem, it doesn't matter. If, depending on how many bundles, so this is the monetization, let's say, and the unique metric for ACR and serverless. It depends on what you choose. But basically, when we're talking about licensing for ACR and serverless, the robot units are the measure. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, another question from Mauricio. So a developer creates a robot for finance team. We have 5 final users on finance team to use the same robot on the tenant. I assume, do we need 5 robot licenses or only 1 robot for the developer? So if it's 1 developer that develops, let's say, this automation for finance team, you would need only 1 license for that developer, an automation developer license. But then this developer would publish, right, their process, and there are five final users. I would assume, let's call them business users, as they are in finance team, right? And they would use this automation in their day-to-day activities, right? So for these 5 users, you will need 5 attended user licenses for each of them. So Mauricio, let me know if this, okay, thanks.
Also, would you like us to unmute you so we can?
Yeah, you could also unmute yourself because
so
we've reached the.
I think it would be easier.
Yeah, we've reached the bottom, let's say, of the questions.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my question is regarding to the tenants. So I'm looking the information as I don't understand yet. As a developer license, he will create one robot, and the tenants will need to use to pay for their own license. But I could not find what will be the price for the tenants itself and for the robot itself.
No, it will be for the user, let's say. So if that developer is one developer and they use Studio, they need Studio, right, to develop that
Yes.
automation, right? And if it's one developer, they will need one automation developer license that gives them access to Studio, right? And then they can publish that workflow that they did for finance team in 10 tenants, 5 tenants. We don't charge for the number of tenants you use that automation, right? But then when it comes to for you to consume what the developer built, you will need a license for each user that consumes, and the user that consumes would be the business user. So I'm an accountant, for example, and I need that automation to log some things from Excel to NetSuite or whatever, right? This is what the automation does. So I would need, for me, that I'm the accountant, an attended robot license in order for me to run. But that developer, maybe with the same license, is developing right now an automation for HR department. So for development, you would need one license per developer, but for consumers, you would need a different type of license for right, those that use that automation. But we don't charge for the number of tenants, or I don't know if you need it in 2 orchestrators, right? That workflow that the developer used, we don't charge for that.
What will be the price for the attended license?
If it's so, the 1,600. But the thing is, for pricing details and specifics in general, please reach out to your account manager or to your partner if you're using a partner, like for detailed information on pricing. The idea is, Mauricio, that by a named user license type, we understand that this license goes to one single human who is using it. That's the idea.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it. You're welcome.
Hi, Varela. This is Priya. I just have I've seen this being asked in the community a couple of times. We used to have this concurrent license model, and I know it's been rolled out. Is there any way that it's coming back in a different form? Because now that everything seems to be only named user, it's tied to a specific user, right?
Yes. So we removed that. I think there were some commercial reasons for removing concurrent, and the alternative is named user right now. So for the moment, it's named user. I'm gonna ask the team if it's coming back or not. If
Look,
we have plans on that.
We had mainly 2 reasons, let's say. First, with the concurrent licenses, since we had no limitation on how many people can use one license, the problem was that, let's say, people bought one license and they had 100 employees on it. Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. The problem is that when those people are starting to log in, I need my robot. If I try to get my robot and I don't have it one time and the second time and the third time, it's not a good experience. And we're not really revealing the automation potential, are we? I mean, how can you automate and see the benefits of having an actual robot who can do the things easier and smoother and faster if you don't actually have the robot?
Okay.
That was basically the main idea. And moreover, I mean, the user-based, the persona-based licensing makes much more sense domain-wise, if you think about it, because it's not just UiPath who is doing this. It's like, it's an industry standard.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So in the case of like, let's imagine like a very small company that's just starting out, and they start building out with one developer, and then like that developer decides to leave for some reason and they have like a new person, and we can easily switch it from the orchestrator from the portal, right? That's
Yes.
still
Reassign it once.
Yeah,
You can reassign it, yes.
Yes.
For these cases, you can reassign it, of course.
No problem with that.
Also, with this new named user licensing paradigm, and with some licensing functionalities that we released, I think, 2 years ago, if I remember well, we tried also to get the user licenses out of the orchestrator tenant, because you were in a tenant. Let's say, let's take the example of Automation Cloud, right? So you purchased one automation developer or one attended user license for one person, and you assign it to one person. But in the old paradigm, you would need one license for each orchestrator tenant. So what we did with user license management was for you to assign once within the portal to one person, and then based on permission, that person can work, let's say, and can access multiple orchestrator tenants or other services. And did you want to ask a question? Sorry.
No, I wanted to ask to answer Ivan's comment, let's say, that the robots are not named user. You are completely right. This is the division, let's say, that we have: user, robot, and platform add-ons. In the Flex SKU user space, we have named user because we're talking about humans. When we talk about robot, we're talking about concurrent runtimes. But this is the difference there. And when we're talking about platform, we're talking about instances in general, or where we have consumption based, like the rows for process mining or the AI units for what we previously had, document understanding, test mining, or AI robots. And now ACR or serverless cloud robots. So you are completely right. Just a refresher in the way we divide them. I hope this clarifies the timing misunderstanding.
thank you so much. I mean, since you showed me that flex plan, like with the user tire right there, just a suggestion from, you know, like a normal user, I would say, like for automation developers and like for citizen developers, yes, it makes sense like with a user, right? But for the future, like this is just a suggestion, and you guys can think about it.
We're super open to any suggestion. And please, I really encourage everyone else, if you have a suggestion or a way of improvement, please tell us.
Yeah, with the action center though, because like the action center is meant for like the business, the SMEs, right? The people that are actually doing the business process, for them to be the human in the loop to make that decisions for the robot. In that case, just tying it to like one user, you know, makes it really difficult in a functional process. Because most of the time, I have even mentioned this in like other licensing forums, is that like most of the times the business functions usually operate as a team. So they always have like a backfill person, one goes on vacation, someone else jumps in. In this case, if we tie it to a named user, it makes it really hard. So it'll be really better if you can say like allow like 5 people.
No, Priya, so thank you very much for the feedback. I completely understand you. We are aware of this and we are working on it. This is the only thing I can say at this point, but yes, it's in our attention. We heard you and we're working on it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for the feedback. Mauricio, I noticed that you were, let me unmute you again. Just a moment, please.
I think everyone, right? You can unmute yourselves.
Yeah, if you want to unmute yourself.
Feel free to do so because there are no more questions on the chat and we can speak freely. We can have discussions.
So what is the outcome that didn't come for you?
I was not able to connect with the sales team. Most of the time the email used, he told me a few several days ago that he never get my emails back and everything. So we already made the point of the proof of concept. We're discussing with our director and a C-level executive to implement the licensing, but we will like more information on how we can reach, what is the best way to do, as we have a hybrid usage with Mac and Windows machines. So we are currently working with an Azure virtual environment in order to achieve those results for the Mac users. But we will like some guidance. What will be the best approach in our specific scenario for this implementation, and what type of license do we need for doing that?
So Mauricio, how about you send me an email with your Reliance CC and we will see exactly how we can help you. Because I'm not sure of I mean, if you follow the standard path and it didn't necessarily work.
Yeah.
It's our names. So mine is irina.lehancian@uipath.com. Yours is the same. Send us an email, explain us the situation, and we will see where exactly we can guide you, how we can help you, or where to send you. Does this sound good?
Yes, I appreciate it.
We're a big company. We don't know each team's processes actually.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. Anybody else? Like, we're really open to any, I mean, what's good is good, but what burns is more important in the evolution path. So like really anything you have to share, any feedback, anything would be super valuable for us.
Yeah, hi Irina. Actually, I have a question on so I have a question on the task mining that UiPath has provided. So what are the license requirements for using the task mining software?
So we provide task mining in 2 directions. First of all, it comes with unlimited users if you buy an automation hub platform instance that comes embedded. And
now he's talking about task mining, not capture.
Sorry. Oh,
task
so
mining right now you will so the model with the flex licensing will be that task mining will consume these AI units, because in order to do the mining, let's say, I mean to process, it uses some ML models, and those are let's say consumed by these AI units. So from a single point of from a single pool of AI units, you could either consume task mining, let's say task mining trainings or modeling, or AI center or document understanding. This is one of the changes that happened this year. And one of the reasons is also simplifications. So for these products and services that are based on AI and ML models, we decided to not to sell 3 different SKUs, let's say, but to purchase 1 SKU, and based on your needs, you could use them all on document understanding or on task mining, or combined, whatever is easier for you.
So,
Just to answer, I think if you purchase AI units, for example, and you want to use them in task mining, you will also have access to use them with document understanding and AI Center. If you want to, of course.
So the whole idea of switching to AI units was to have a unitary consumption metric. Because for document understanding, we had the pages, for task mining, we had the compute units, for AI Center, we had the AI robot and the GPUs. There were many things. And the whole point is, okay, we made this universal consumption metric for these three products, which is embedded in the AI Center. You can just, they are monetized. So yeah, the AI units bundles, we have 3 flavors. You can just buy the AI units and use them for whatever you need. Does it make sense?
yes, Irina, yes. So one question, there's one more question from my side. I'm currently using the UiPath version 2020.10. So is this version comes under the Flex plan, which you are talking about? I mean, initially.
So
Is
if
this,
you're using
version-
2020.10 and for example, you purchased last year something when we didn't have Flex, you might be on the old contracts, right? With whatever you purchased, some robots, let's assume. Right, and in order to move to Flex, I think you would need to have a discussion with the account manager, right? But in general, for example, if that version is supported, like 20.10, right, it's still supported, and you are purchasing AI units right now on the Flex plan, if that version supports those products, and if, for example, maybe we haven't released a certain product or service in a past version, yes, of course. So the way you purchase the SKUs or the licenses is not tied to the versions, except for the fact that some products or functionalities are available only in the newer versions.
Yeah, that's answered my question. Thanks, Varela.
So Irina, this
Yeah.
is Priya here again. You mentioned about the AI units as a whole, like it can be an umbrella under like all these different products, right? How about like in terms of like non-production? So can we use the same AI robot units for like the development and also for, like sometimes for training, you require like extensive level of training to make that AI model, right? So do we consume the same units?
No. The consumption is a bit different depending on the model, but this is a very technical and changing conversation. I really cannot offer you a standard guideline because it really depends on what you're training, how you're training, what you want to do. So if you have, I completely understand your concern, but the technical teams really need to be engaged in this conversation in order to deliver the accurate estimation. There's not a one-stop recipe for everything. It really depends case by case, setup by setup, but they are embedded. I mean, when we say, for example, the equivalent of AI unit for 40K document understanding all this SKU is 1. When we deliver this estimation, we think about everything. I mean, the training, and yes, it's all embedded, but please reach out to technical teams for a correct estimation. And Via, if you have something to add on top of it.
I would admit I'm not an expert in ML models and the way they are used. But you can also ask Priya, you can also ask this question on that forum topic, and I'll make sure to redirect it to our colleagues from
Okay, thank you so much.
AI
Because
Center teams, so they can give you an informed answer.
Yeah, but
yeah.
it's really technical, and the fact that it's technical, it's fine. it's really specific, and that's why neither me or you are really the people who can tell you this is what you have to do. But we can guide
Totally
you.
understand.
Yeah.
Totally understand, because like I've seen this like come across like at a previous client that I used to work at. Like we were like just buying like AI robots back in the time. You didn't call it units, right? So it was different. So I mean, you're from the licensing team. So speaking to the sales team, it's like on the whole, they are like unaware of like these kind of different separations of like, these different environments to begin with. So it makes it like a little bit harder. So as a consultant, when we are promoting the product, I just want to have that information at hand, knowing like what I can and I cannot tell my client. So that's why this question. So thank you so much. And if you can like share that forum link that you were talking about, that would be really helpful.
Yes, I'll share it again.
Look, we understand that it's a somehow painful process, this transition, because it's not, I mean, it's not, let's be honest, it's not easy. It's not easy to comprehend, but in the long term, it will lead to simplification, although right now it might lead to a bit of confusion. But that's why we always involve the people, and we have many people in UiPath who can give an answer at any time. That's why we look them in, so they can answer to whatever it takes.
Absolutely. Totally love this, because like I've seen this whole licensing process is always like evolving. So whenever we talk to like a community manager, be it Diana, before, we are always like, we need to talk to the licensing folks, because like we are not sure like how this has evolved, like from where we were to where we are now. So I totally understand. And thank you for like answering the question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Look, the idea with all of this, everything that we are doing on the licensing, on the pricing side, we are going towards simplification and towards evolution. But even simplifying an SKU is a change. And then a change comes after a change, after another change, which leads to, guess what? Complication. But it's just a step of the process. So the way, like strategically, the way we're thinking about it, it will lead toward being much easier, much simpler, and much evolved. But changes are uncomfortable in general and in life. So just bear with us for a little, and together we will get there.
Hey, hi, this is Lakshmi here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
Lakshmi.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, recently we got some licenses. We started recently UiPath. So I can see the product names like UiPath Cloud Orchestrated Unattended Robot and UiPath Cloud Orchestrated Attended Named User. Can you explain? These are like 5 different names I do have. UiPath Cloud Orchestrated Unattended Robot, UiPath Cloud Automation Developer Named User, and also UiPath Cloud Orchestrated Robot Non-Production.
Yeah. So the excellent news is that this do not longer exist, because we have replaced them with the Flex SKUs. The cloud orchestrator means that the product is deployed on-prem, but the orchestration is managed from our UiPath cloud. Now, we have gone away from all of this with the Flex SKUs. Now you just buy Flex Automation Developer, Flex Unattended Robot, Flex whatever else, and you get to choose. I want to deploy it on Windows. I want to keep them on cloud. I want to have them on Automation Suite. If I have 10 robots, you can come to us and you say, hey, UiPath, I want 5 of my unattended robots to be on cloud and 5 of them to be on Automation Suite, thanks to Flex SKUs. So everything that was cloud orchestrated has been replaced with Flex. And when renewal comes, you will automatically be renewed on the Flex SKUs, because there is literally, besides the name difference, it's no change from the cloud orchestrated SKUs to Flex.
Yes, so from a product point of view, this is what I wanted to to mention, Lakshmi, is that, for example, you said you purchased some cloud orchestrated, attended, unattended, non-production with cloud orchestrated in their names. What this means is that on your cloud.uipath.com account, enterprise organization, you will see all these in the licenses page as available licenses, and you could use them in that organization on different tenants, different orchestrator tenants. So depending on if you have a tenant for production, you would put on tenant 1, let's say, the unattended, and on the non-production tenant for testing, you would put the cloud orchestrated non-production robot. So the name won't be the name that you would see in the within the product will be just unattended or just non-production or attended, not cloud orchestrated, but you will see it in your cloud organization.
Okay, the confusion is like we have like 2 UiPath cloud orchestrated unattended robots and also 3 UiPath cloud orchestrated unattended robots. What does it mean? Both are looks like names are same, but
yes. So attended versus unattended means that, for example, if you have a process that will be
it's
used,
not unattended and attended. It's both are like unattended only.
And what's the name difference? Sorry, I missed it.
So the product name is showing like we do have 2 UiPath cloud orchestrated unattended robot.
Yeah.
And different section, we have 3 UiPath cloud orchestrated unattended robot. Both names are same.
But what is the difference between the sections?
The quantities per
the quantity only I can see the difference.
The quantity.
I'm not sure. I mean, it seems the same product from our I mean, from what we know, it's the same license,
So,
basically.
It doesn't seem to be something standard. So
Yeah,
how about you send us the particular situation, like let us take a look, see what's happening there, and we can answer. Because like from the first look, it doesn't seem necessarily something we're familiar with. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. So good to know about the flex thing. So what is the flex versus this starter pack sandal? Both are like same prices or else increased prices, and what is
when it comes to pricing, please reach out to your account manager or to
sure. Thank you.
I mean, it's not the scope of this meeting.
Yeah, definitely. I do understand that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm good with that. And can you explain me more about like a task manager thing? So where exactly we are using?
Task mining.
Yeah. Task mining. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Orchestrator, I can see the different thing.
Yeah, that's another product, another service. So like you have orchestrator, right?
Maybe you can guide them a little bit through task capture, task mining, and process mining.
Yeah, those are discovery products. For example, task capture, it's a desktop product that would, let's say, record a task you are doing. For example, I don't know, you put something from SAP to Excel or whatever. I'm not very sure. And it generates a PDD, for example, that will be used by the developer to develop that
it will generate
workflow.
The PDD?
Yeah. Task capture. And then task mining is an AI service. So it's like you see orchestrator on the tenants, it's just another product, right?
Yeah, I can see
called
that.
Yeah. And task mining, basically, it's a evolved version of task capture because I know it does more, but again, I'm not very familiar with how it processes things. I know it does it using some ML models, and it also captures, let's say, more advanced tasks than task capture. So task capture is for very small tasks that a user does on their day-to-day work life.
Okay.
So I also put in the chat our email, so in case you have particular cases, right, that cannot be shared publicly on the forum, you can email me and Irina.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for providing those emails. I can save it and I'll reach if I need any questions or help.
And the same for everyone here.
UiPath Action Center also, say in similar way. With UiPath, you can take an actions and automation task from single place.
Yes, Action Center is used for what we call human in the loop and long running workflows. So if you have a business process, a bigger one, for example, let me think, like onboarding new employees, right? So this is a business flow that may have multiple pieces of automation. And let's say the first part of automation happens when you onboard them and add them, I don't know, in your domains or whatever. Then maybe another human, their manager or whatever, needs to approve for them to be added also to some, I don't know, private groups or other applications within your company. So what Action Center does is that with during the running of these what we call long running workflows, you would need a business person that would approve these tests. So once it runs, you will see a task, an action in Action Center, and after that business person approves it, the process will resume and will continue with what it has to do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. Maybe these are basic, but I just want to know, make sure how we are using it.
Question is the question, actually, doesn't matter.
Thank you so much.
The same for us.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question related to the community edition for the PMs. Can we allocate a VM on a community? Like, is there any price for doing that for testing or?
So for community, we have 300 robot units per month, and those are available only for serverless, not for Cloud Robots VM. So we don't have for VM, but only for serverless.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
For cloud trial, we have it available also for VM, but with a limited 60-day trial. I think
actually,
we are close. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more question from my side. Actually, in my dev environment, I have seen that we are using two kind of licenses. One is the Studio Floating license, and another is the Studio Pro Floating license. So, what exactly the difference between the two? Are there any added benefits to Studio Pro license in terms of or in comparison with a normal Studio Floating license?
You seem to have an older version of Orchestrator, as this is how we had
it's,
them.
2020.10. It's 2020.10
Yes,
Orchestrator.
yes.
Yeah.
And past that, for example, so we had what we called RPA Developer and RPA Developer Pro. What Studio versus Studio Pro, like you have them did, is that in Studio Pro, you could also use the test functionalities. And I don't know, build test processes to test your automations or other applications. Right now, what we did with this, the license is called Automation Developer, right? But for older version, it would show up as Studio Pro, and for newer versions, it will show up as Automation Developer, and Studio and Studio Pro profiles have merged into one profile. So even within the product, if you previously had Studio Pro and you then see Studio, the Studio Pro functionalities for testing haven't disappeared. It's just a name change, a very confusing one, I will admit, but this is the difference mainly.
So basically, there is a change in the name only and the functionalities are same, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we merged the functionalities, but we kept the Studio name.
Yes.
So Studio became Studio Pro, but called Studio.
Okay. Okay.
Now that we say it out loud, it sounds even funny if it weren't true. Okay, Diana, sorry. I think we've reached the
thank
end.
you. Thank you, Irina. And Fiorella. We are getting at the top of the hour or a little past it. So I just want to thank you, everybody, for attending, and remember to grab any information you need from the chat. And appreciate you joining today. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon or on the forum.
It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.